First of all, I hope you're all staying well. Wayne and I are incredibly grateful for all of the positive emails we've had from many of you since we started this Film Club at Home experiment last week with Vittorio De Sica's and Berto D. You can still catch up with the intro to that film and read some of your reactions to it on our website, tottenhamparkfilmclub.com. This week's film is Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal. This was the last film that we'd had scheduled to show at the Lord Palmerston, as a tribute to Max von Sydow, who died aged 90 at the start of March. We did wonder if it still felt appropriate to show, given the current circumstances. This is my Blu-ray copy of the film, and this is the description, the start of the description on the back cover. As the Black Death continues to wipe out the population of Europe, a knight, Antonius Block, returns from the Crusades. Disillusioned and worn, he encounters death and makes a bargain. His fate will be determined by a game of chess. But as a colleague pointed out to me this week, the most watched films on all of the streaming platforms at the moment are titles like Contagion and Outbreak. So really, showing The Seventh Seal, this just seems like we're just giving the public what it wants. If you've not seen The Seventh Seal before and aren't sure if you want to, one very important point to make is that it is a very brisk 90 minutes running time. You may also be under the impression that it is a relentlessly bleak film, what with the iconic image of death and Bergman's reputation as a miserablist, but it's actually quite humorous. I watched it again earlier in the week, and I didn't count how many times I laughed out loud watching it, but I definitely did. No less than Death himself actually cracks a gag at the start of the infamous chess game, and I defy you not to chuckle at the Grim Reaper chopping down a tree later on in the film. The relationship between von Sydow's knight and his squire, played by Gunnar Bjornstrand, is also this terrific back and forth of droll quips between the two of them. The film was released in 1957, and although Bergman had already made over a dozen films by this stage, this was his international breakthrough. Although a small number of foreign films had found audiences in the US and the UK before then, the success of The Seventh Seal is widely credited as essentially inventing the market for so-called art house cinema. Throughout his career, Bergman also wrote and directed plays, and The Seventh Seal started life as a one-act play in 1953 called Wood Painting, which he wrote for the acting students at Malmo City Theatre. He later directed a version for radio in 1954, and when it was staged in Stockholm later that year, the director was Bengt Ekeroth, who so memorably plays Death in the film. Until this point, Bergman's reputation was for fairly light-hearted material. His previous film, Smiles of Summer Night, won a special award at the 1956 Cannes Film Festival for Best Poetic Humour. So a serious film like The Seventh Seal really felt like a big gamble for its financial backers. Bergman got a relatively small budget of $150,000 and just 36 days to shoot the film. It was evidently a challenging production. In his autobiography, Bergman calls The Seventh Seal an uneven film which lies close to my heart because it was made under difficult circumstances in a surge of vitality and delight. So why was it a hit, and why has it endured as a timeless classic? My personal introduction to a lot of the supposed greatest films of all time, and possibly The Seventh Seal, was via this book by Barry Norman, which I got for Christmas when I was 15 years old. And in it, Barry writes that the plague, the awful possibility of something worse, spoke clearly to a modern generation living in fear of the nuclear bomb. It is a serious film. It's an existential drama about the possible absence of God. So, big subject. And you can see why it would speak to a Cold War audience, and now possibly to us too. Part of its tremendous influence is that it gave other filmmakers permission to make serious, consciously artistic work, and know that they would be able to find a kind of a chin-stroking audience who would appreciate it. It's also a visually stunning film. Eric Romer, the French director, called it one of the most beautiful films ever made. Bergman was clearly inspired by medieval art. His father was a Lutheran minister, and in his autobiography Images, he writes, Like all churchgoers have at times, I let my mind wander as I contemplated the altarpieces, triptychs, crucifixes, stained glass windows and murals. I would find Jesus and the two robbers in blood and torment, and Mary leaning on St. John. Woman, behold thy son, behold thy mother. Mary Magdalene, the sinner. Who had been the last to sleep with her? The knight playing chess with death, death soaring down the tree of life, a terrified wretch wringing his hands in the top of it. Some of these images you will see in the film, and along with others, they will be etched on your brain after watching it. If you were at our recent screening of Monty Python and the Holy Grail or know that film well, you'll see how taken they were by the Seventh Seal. And Bergman's image of death has been parodied countless times in pop culture. Also by Monty Python in The Meaning of Life, but in other films like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey as well. The cast is terrific. Much of Bergman's stock company were people he's worked with at Malmo City Theatre, including Max von Sydow and Bibi Andersson, who is wonderful as one of the travelling actors the knight meets. This was von Sydow's breakout role. He was just 27 and went on to make 10 more films with Bergman. Bergman was in a relationship with Bibi Andersson at this time, and he's credited her for pushing him to make The Seventh Seal. In his workbook, he wrote, "Bibi's right. I've done enough comedies. It's time for something else. I mustn't let myself get scared off anymore. It's better to do this than a bad comedy." As I'm sure you will agree, we can all be grateful for Bibi Andersson's powers of persuasion. So, just like last week, do send us your reflections on the film via email, on social media, or adding a comment here on the website. There are links to where you can watch The Seventh Seal under this video, and I've also posted a few more links of further reading if you want to delve deeper. So, enjoy the film, stay safe, vidi well.